child about science and faith in light of what she's been taught in school? What can she say in class? Now, a question like that is very difficult for me because I'm not Slovenian and I know nothing about your education system. And it would be to insult you for me to make any assumptions about it. But the formulation of the question is very revealing. What can I say to my child about science and faith? I wonder what is meant by faith in that question. Is it that we've got science here and faith there? Because that reveals to me a misunderstanding. What is faith? Well, I know what Richard Dawkins thinks it is. It's a religious concept and it means believing where there's no evidence. That's nonsense. Faith is an ordinary word that means trust. It comes in English from the Latin fides, which means trust, reliability. And faith is an essential part of science. So when you say science or faith or science and faith, I'm not sure what is being talked about. But I understand it because faith has become, sadly, a shorthand for belief in God and religion, as if science didn't rest on faith. But of course it does. I said that, but not in so many words at the beginning of my lecture. I said that Newton and Kepler believed that science could be done. They had faith that the universe was rational. Every scientist has that faith. And Einstein said so explicitly. I cannot imagine a scientist without that faith. I cannot give you guidance. But I was fortunate. My parents never went to university. But they had the goodness to allow me and to encourage me to think. And they had the sense to feed me good literature so that I could compare it with what I read in school. And I don't know what's taught here. I can imagine, of course, that in some schools, certainly in Britain, people are taught a worldview. Some schools have a Christian background, some have an Islamic background, and many have an atheist background. And what I would encourage parents to do is A, never suppress your kids' questions. B, take them seriously, because they will know if you don't know the answers. C, be honest if you don't know the answers. Many young people are asking questions today that their parents never had to face. And it's very important that your relationship with your child is on a level. I don't understand that, son, but let's have a look at it together and see can we sort it out. That will develop a very close relationship with your child. And I think you parents, I'm a grandfather of 7 and I'm a parent, but it's not easy being a parent. You're going to have to do some hard work. You're going to have to get your eyes away from the television and invest it in thinking about these things in order to help your kids. It is desperately important. So that's all I can say about that. You want to think something else? Yeah, okay. Oh, let's have a good time. Well, this relates to the earlier thing. You argue that the universe cannot emerge from itself, but isn't that exactly what God did? No. I think that God has always existed. I used to go to Russia a lot, ladies and gentlemen. It's very interesting. In fact, I find I can understand a little bit of your language as I listen to it. And in the Academy of Sciences, I used to read this question, who created the Creator? Didn't the Creator emerge from himself and all this kind of thing? And I was fascinated about that because in those days, when I said to them, well, tell me about the universe, many would say it's always been there. Oh, I said, you do believe in something eternal. So why do you have a difficulty in believing in an eternal God? Is your problem with believing in an eternal person? So what it's going to come down to, in principle, science can't take you either way, whether there's an eternal God or an eternal universe, they come down on the side of the universe not being eternal. And that's the fascinating thing, because it raises the question of creation instantly, as we saw tonight. The universe not eternal is derivative, God eternal. And why would one come to believe that? Well, the first thing is, does it make sense? Does it make sense of the evidence? And that would lead me, and will lead me in a minute or two, onto more specific questions of how we conceptualize God. And there's one of these questions here, somewhere in the middle, I noticed, said, well, you know, if you think of the scientific argument, you get, well, perhaps you get to an intelligent God, but can you get any further than that by studying nature? My answer to that is not very much further. And even Christianity recognizes that. The Apostle Paul said that what is visible from creation we can perceive by looking at it two things. One, that there is a God, and two, that he's powerful. That's all. To go further than that, to advance to the nature of God, I think the question was, can you find out from science about the actual nature of God? And my answer to that is not very much. Just what I have said. So, if you're going to go further than that, and that's what the question asks, how do you go further than that? You have to bring in other disciplines. Remember what I said at the beginning, that science is not the only way to truth. What about history and experience? We've got to bring those in. What about the concept of revelation I mentioned just a little while ago? There's nothing in science that contradicts the concept of revelation. We all know about revelation at the personal level. If you want to get to know me, and I never speak, you never get to know me, you can put me under the most powerful, scanning, tunneling microscope that you've got. You'll never get to know me, unless I reveal myself. And so the big question here in this kaleidoscope of questions is, if there is a creator, has he spoken? Has he revealed himself? Now, of course, you know as well as I do that the central claim of Christianity is that God has spoken in a very specific way. We humans, the claim is, are created in his image, and he has revealed himself by himself becoming human. Now, surely you don't believe that. Now, one of the questions here is, can God break the laws of nature? Are miracles possible? And that's a very important question. I was once addressing 600 physicists in Britain, and they listened to my talk, and one very bright physicist said at the end, he said, "Professor Lennox, that was all very interesting, but you know, I perceive that you're a Christian." I said, "You're really sharp." And he said, "No," he said, "let's be honest." He said, "This is crazy. If you're a Christian, you're obliged to believe that Jesus was God become human. Isn't that right?" I said, "Absolutely right." He said, "Can you explain that to me?" Well, I said, "You've been asking all the questions. Can I ask you a few easier ones first as a physicist?" "Sure," he said. So I said, "Tell me, what is consciousness?" "I don't know." "Okay," I said, "let's take an easier thing. What is energy?" "Well," he said, "we can measure it and use it." I said, "That wasn't the question. You know it wasn't the question. What is energy?" "I don't know." "Neither does the Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman of it." "Oh," I said, "you don't know what they are. Tell me, do you believe in them?" He said, "Yes." "You believe in consciousness, you believe in energy, and you know what they are." I said, "You're crazy, man." I said, "I write you off as a physicist." He said, "Please don't." And I said, "Listen, you were prepared to write me off, because I couldn't explain to you the deepest mystery in the universe, how God become human, and you can't explain these vastly simpler things." I said, "Let's pursue this a bit further." I said to him, "Why do you believe in these things when you don't know what they are?" Well, that was a difficulty. So being very kind, I had to. And I said, "I think one of the reasons you believe in those concepts is that they have explanatory power." He said, "That's right." Well, I said, "That's one of the reasons I believe that Jesus was both God and human." I don't understand it. We don't even know what gravity is. But I believe it because it's the only explanation of the phenomenon that makes sense. And now we come down to the final, what must be the final question. Because I'm getting old and you're getting tired. And they all circle around this idea. Most of the questions, actually, it interests me greatly. As far as I can see, most of the questions are about this topic. And there are, why, how would you be a Christian? Why aren't you a member of some other religion? And so on and so forth. Now, I understand the question very well. It's not actually on our agenda tonight. The topic was, I believe, gentlemen, the Higgs boson, the God of gas. But here I have a problem because the main question that you've asked me has got nothing to do with the topic. It's a very personal question. Why are you a Christian? Would you mind if I give you a personal answer? Those who aren't interested, just go to sleep with that. All right? And for the rest of you, I will attempt to give a personal answer. But I'm going to contextualize it. Because I've said that the hardest problem I face is what makes many of my friends atheists. It's the problem of suffering and evil. Now, if you're interested in detail what I say about it, just Google my name in New Zealand. Because I arrived in New Zealand 2 days after the Christchurch earthquake. I had to meet men who lost their wives, women who lost their husbands. I had to speak, give interviews in radio, television for a solid 2 weeks. I had to change all my lectures. Earthquake, why? So I'm not going to be able to go into detail in this. But it will help me to explain 2 things. How I face that question and why I am a Christian.